Welcome to 100% Finance. Today we're going to discuss how to get started in real estate investing. I know you're excited because I'm excited. But first, let's get into a disclaimer, which may not be as exciting, but this is not legal advice. We do not offer legal advice, but always CYA, consult your attorney, consult your accountant, cover your assets. And that's the purpose for today's presentation, is to make sure you get some assets in your portfolio. So what you'll learn today: how I got started, what is 100% financing, how you can get started, how it works, and the best practices. So let's get started. Taking the first steps. First and foremost, shout out to you for taking action towards increasing your knowledge, taking action towards networking, taking action towards improving your financial situation. It starts with knowledge. So congrats, I'm excited for you. And speaking of excitement, I'm extremely excited to be able to get to the place where I am today, in which I can do this type of presentation for free, because it's rewarding to me, right? And it's also a blessing to get to the point where working is an option for me and not an obligation, because I have my real estate portfolio, which pretty much pays my bills. So it's really great. So I'm Juan Pablo, by the way. I'm a full-time real estate investor, as well as an entrepreneur. You might have seen me on YouTube, or you might have seen me on Facebook, or any other videos, or what have you. But I'm excited to be here today to give you some information on how you can get started on real estate investing. So before we get started, I want to make sure that you grab a pen and some paper, for we're going to do some work. Don't worry, I'll wait. 3, 2, 1, go. Great. Glad you got your pen and your paper. If you didn't do it, make sure you go do it. I'm not playing. We're going to do some work. Literally, we're going to do some work. All right, I want to share in detail how you can get started in real estate investing so you can cash flow at least, bare minimum, $100 per unit. Okay? Now, how I got started. Well, I graduated from college with a high GPA, but a low FICO score. Shout out to the Georgia Bulldogs. But graduating with a low FICO score was difficult for me to get a job, so I couldn't get a career in a job that I wanted. I really wanted to get into the financial services industry, work as a financial planner or financial advisor of some sort. I really wanted to help people and advise them where the financial matters were concerned. However, my low FICO score made it difficult for me to get a job in that industry, simply because at that time they were doing credit checks, and I had poor credit. I paid myself through college, right? And when it came to paying rent or paying my credit cards or paying for schooling or what have you, of course, I decided to pay rent instead of paying for books, instead of paying my credit cards. That's just how it was. So after graduating, I ended up getting just dead-end jobs. I was not to just throw any shade if you're working at this job, don't get me wrong, but it definitely wasn't a job that I wanted. But I was working at jobs in which I had to carry a flashlight and just do manual labor, things that I just wasn't excited about. Working was an obligation for me at that point. I needed money, but it definitely wasn't my best option. However, what made matters worse, outside of just working at jobs I wasn't too fond of, I actually had to move back in with my mom. Now, nothing's wrong with my mom. I love my mom. She's a great person. But it just didn't fit well with me. It didn't suit well with me. And a lot of my friends who were my age, who didn't go to college, were poking fun. Hey, college boy, why are you working here? I'm getting paid more than you. Hey, college boy, why don't you got a car? Why are you always walking everywhere? It's just how it was. I just had poor credit, even though I had a high GPA. But fortunately, for working with my mom, she blessed me. She provided me with a book that transformed my life. Many of you can guess what it is, right? It is Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. When I got that book, I'm not sure why she picked it up. She just happened to bless me with it. I devoured that book within 2 days. Killed it, ate it up, licked the plate. I read everything from the table of contents to the index. Every single letter, every single word, every single page I consumed. And I made a firm decision at that moment. You know what? I'm going to be a real estate investor. I don't know how. I don't know when. I might not have a mentor or someone to model in my family. I don't have a friend who's done it who can show me the ropes, but guaranteed I will become a real estate investor. You may feel the same way. I hope you do. However, after I made a decision, I decided to shut out the outside world, meaning all the things I used to do, I no longer did them. Well, what do you mean, Juan? Great question. Thanks for asking that. I shut out my friends. I shut out TV. I shut out the internet. I shut out hanging out. I shut out going to Starbucks for coffee. I shut it out going out to lounges or hanging out. I shut out all those things so I can only focus on my end goal to become a real estate investor. I was either at one of three places outside of home, right? I was at the library. I didn't have a computer, didn't have internet. So I guess that I had no choice but to shut it out because I didn't have it. So I'll go to the library to use their computers, their resources, to apply for job applications, as well as to read books. That's when I became engulfed in changing my mindset. I became engulfed in learning how I could become a greater version of myself. I was on a quest to personal and self-development outside of real estate investing. Also, I was there, as I mentioned, to work on my resume and apply for jobs. So that was one place, the library. The second place was the church. Again, I was on a quest to greater development, not just from a financial standpoint, but also from a spiritual standpoint. Because I believe that my business can only development as far as I can develop. You cannot have business development without personal development. And personal development is not just limited to reading books to help you become a better person of society, which is important, of course, but also a better human, a better spirit as well. So I consume church. I would go all the time. Anytime I could, whether church doors were open Wednesday night for Bible studies, Sunday morning, I would go, I would attend, and I would watch additional services and so forth online. So if I wasn't in the library or a church, guess where else I was at? I was interviewing. I was on a quest to land a job somewhere because I kept running to roadblocks. Hey, Juan, you got a nice resume. Hey, Juan, you did great on the interview, but your FICO score, we can't help you there. However, I ended up landing a job in New York City working for the government. 6 long months of working hard on getting a career finally paid off. And I ended up getting a job with the government simply because they didn't do credit checks. Like Robert Kiyosaki said, he said, A players work for C players, right? And C players own the business, but B players work for the government. So yes, I was a B player in that regard. And I had no choice. Got a job in New York City with the government. So I was still happy, additional income, additional opportunities. I learned a lot at my day job. I learned a lot about supervision, about management. I learned a lot about systems, delegation. So it was a great place to learn as well as to earn. However, while there, I still didn't officially fit in as a employee. I wanted to be a full-time real estate investor. I had a burning desire. And so I still didn't know how to get started. Thanks to Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and all of his teachings, I pretty much had the philosophy, but not the step-by-steps. However, I would continue to network. So while in New York, I continued to still go to church. And I sat next to a guy who was ambitious. And shout out to Joko. And Joko, he mentioned he wanted to get started in business. I said, cool, I want to get started in real estate. He said, really? He's like, have you heard about the networking group in Harlem? I was like, there's a networking group? Yeah, man, just go to the website, register, and you should be able to sign up. And that's what I did. Next meeting, I was there, first row, front and center, soaking up all the content I could, learn about all the multiple real estate strategies, how to move forward with getting financing creatively, improving my FICO, all that good stuff. But I was presented, again, with multiple strategies. Now, that's the downside, my friend. You might be presented with multiple strategies. You're not sure where to go. Should I go left? Should I go right? Should I go up? Should I go down? So-and-so on YouTube says that I should do this. So-and-so on the podcast says that I should do that. So-and-so on my network said I should do this. You're confused because there's so many options, so many strategies. But I've decided, personally speaking, to move forward with the buy and hold strategy. because I had a deep desire, a passion to become a real estate investor full-time as well as to exit my 9 to 5. So I thought, if I can use my spare time to obtain passive income through rental properties in a short matter of time, then I can quit my 9 to 5. So I decided to move forward with the buy and hold strategy. And I bought my first property in 2010 at the ripe age of 26 years old, thanks to the decree, the resignation letter, and completing my personal financial statement. So you might be thinking, well, what about the real estate stuff? Of course, that's important. But again, we're talking about how to get started. And you got to start with you. you got to understand where you stand at currently, financially speaking. And you also got to make sure you're an advocate of personal development. It matters a whole ton, as well as your health, right? You can't have wealth without health. You got to have them both, right? Be healthy, wealthy, and wise. Ben Frank said that. So buy my first property at 26, and the creed is as follows. If I don't purchase my first investment property by December 31st, and this time was 2010, I ought to be ashamed of myself. But I won't be ashamed of myself because I have every single resource that I need to become a full-time real estate investor. Resignation letter. Pretty much just typed it up. You can Google this online or what have you, but we have these resources as well. But the resignation letter, which is a document that I post-dated years prior. I was 26, I posted it to the age of 30. And I would look at it day in and day out. Motivation. And guess what, my friend? I eventually turned in that resignation letter. Not the exact copy. I actually made a photocopy and presented it to my supervisor. But the original, the one I was posted on my cubicle for all those years, hangs in our office at the 100% Finance headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia, as of today. So if you ever pay a visit, come see us, and you'll see that resignation letter. And I completed my personal financial statement, which includes the income statement and balance sheet. There's many other things, but those are the two most important things we'll talk about a little bit later. And while I was completing the CRE resignation letter, personal financial statement, and learning about real estate investing, I started to apply it. Like people say, knowledge is powerful. Yeah, to a point. It's more powerful you can apply it. That's what wisdom is, the application of knowledge. So I started to apply it. And as I started to apply it, meaning actually purchasing properties time and time again, I began to perfect this strategy of buy and hold with using 100% financing. So let's get into that. What is 100% financing? So it's leverage. Point blank, period. It's being able to use other people's money, OPM, to get access to cash flowing properties. So you want to make sure you're purchasing cash flowing assets, income producing assets. Because if you just buy land, sure, that's an asset. But if that land's not producing revenue for you, no income, then using debt to acquire it might not be a great strategy for you if you're just really trying to get out of the 9 to 5 as quickly as possible through passive income. And the best thing about 1% financing, outside of using leverage and other people's money, your return is infinite. If you have $0 invested in a property, however, you're getting positive cash flow in return, your return on investment is infinite. Now, don't get me wrong when I say this, right? Because people, they see me on YouTube or they see me present in person or what have you, and their mind is wrapped around, I got to get a deal, only using 100% financing. Now, to be clear, the company's name is 100% Finance. However, listen up. I want you to write this down. Cash is still king, but credit is queen. Okay? Cash is king, but credit is queen. So if you don't have the cash to purchase properties, to go towards down payments, soft costs, closing costs, and so forth, then by all means, leverage your credit, leverage your relationships, obtain OPM, other people's money. Use your credit or your credit worthiness to attract the money that you need, because that's queen. Okay? So cash is still king. So if you got the cash, there's nothing wrong with buying a cash flowing property. All right? Cool. However, you still might want to mix it with a little bit of leverage. Now, I've used 100% financing to help me get into the door, no pun intended, right? To get into the door of real estate investing. However, you want to make sure that you improve the value of the property. So when you do a refinance, to pay off that debt that you've used to acquire the property. Okay, I'm not getting into that more with further presentations, but That's the gist of 100% finance. Just use it to get you in the door and improve the value of the property, so that way you can use that value that you built up to pay off the debt. Okay, so you can pay off the debt and live off the rest. However, you must use value to get you out of the deal. Got it? Cool. Now, 100% financing is perfect for the buy and hold strategy. Now, you might have heard me say that and might be curious, what do you mean by buy and hold? Well, buy and hold is you're buying a property and you're holding on to it for passive income, for cash flow. It's the rental income. Now, let's discuss how you can get started on real estate investing. You heard about how I can get started. Let's talk about you. All right, phase one. Decide your strategy. As I mentioned, there might be multiple strategies to choose from. But the first thing you need to do is, what life do you want to live? From a personal experience, Gestalt, I wanted to have freedom of time. I wanted to make sure that working was an option for me and not an obligation. I wanted to be able to work remotely, whether I'm in Atlanta, New York, Pittsburgh, LA, Miami, whether I'm in Fort Lauderdale, Cleveland, Detroit, Dallas, New Jersey, DC, the Caribbean, Europe, South America, Africa, wherever, right? Shout out to all you guys who live there. I would love to come do an event and meet you guys face to face. However, I decided the lifestyle I want to live. I want a freedom of time. I want to be able to work remotely when I can. And I didn't want to have a cap, a ceiling on my income either. Because if my boss just happened to wake up on the wrong side of bed, I don't want to be at that risk that he or she can just fire me in a moment's notice. Or say, hey, I know you're worthy of a raise one, but not right now. I don't want to give it to you now. I didn't want a ceiling on my earning potential. You follow? And I thought about this as a young man, in my early 20s. So I want you to start thinking about this. What lifestyle do you want to live? Now, do you want freedom of time? Or do you want a bunch of money? Now, this is the key word. It doesn't have to be an or. It doesn't have to be a dichotomy. You can have them both. You can have, I hate that when people say, brains and beauty. You can have them both. You can have brains, you can be smart as well as be fun, right? You can be smart as well as have the muscles. You can have it all. You can have an abundance of time and abundance of wealth. But the first thing you have to do, my friend, is decide. Paint that picture of the lifestyle you want. What kind of car do you want? What kind of house do you want to live in? What kind of spouse do you want? What kind of food do you want to eat? What kind of trips do you want to take? And then write out those personal billboards for success, the creed and resignation letter. I'll repeat the creed for you one more time. So I want you to write this down. It's time to take some notes. We're doing some work. Here's the creed. If I, fill in your name, do not close on my first rental property by December 31st, put in next year, the year of next year, I ought to be ashamed of myself. But I won't be ashamed because I have every resource that I need to make this goal a reality. Got it? Cool. Write that thing down. I'll repeat it for you one more time. So I'm such a nice guy. If I, fill in the blank, put in your name. If I don't close on my first real estate property, you can say rental property, investment property, whatever floats your boat, by December 31st, put in next year, let's say 2020, whatever, I ought to be ashamed of myself. I won't be ashamed of myself because I have every resource that I need to make this goal a reality and complete your resignation letter. So we have these resources as well, guys. All right, so after you fill out the creed resignation letter, I want you to do some research on whether you should fix and flip versus fix and rent. Now, fix and flip, that's cool. That involves more management on your behalf because you have to manage the project. So I want to make sure that you obtain training and have experience and expertise in project management because you have to manage the project as well as manage contractors, which are external members of your team. So do you actually have experience in vendor management? Because you want to manage either a GC or if you decide to work with subcontractors or subs, in other words, you have to manage the painter, the flooring people, the roofers, the people who do HVAC work, electrical work, plumbing, and you got to make sure things are done in a linear fashion, because you will hate to do the flooring first and then the painting second. That doesn't make sense, right? Or put an electrical outlet in the sink. Things like that. This is stuff that shouldn't work, right? So you got to make sure you know the process step by step, and you can manage the process. Now, it involves a lot more work on your behalf, because with fix and flip and fix and rent, you have to be on site at least 3 times a week just to make sure your money's working. Just because you sign a contract with a contractor doesn't mean they're actually going to be honoring what's in that contract. You probably heard many horror stories of investors working with contractors, and they all got screwed. They all got scammed. It happened to me, where I would have a contractor paint pictures of the wall, send me, the pictures, and I'll pay him for the full house, and just realized he only painted 2 walls, simply because I was trying to flip a property and I wasn't on site. So fix and flip is you're buying a distressed property, you're fixing it up, you're renovating it, so you can sell it at a higher price. Fix and rent is you're fixing up a distressed property, renovate it, put a tenant in there, and then you refinance and you pull out the equity and you get the rental income. My preference, I would say fix and rent, but again, it does involve more expertise in in project management, as well as management of vendors, and you have to be on site, so it's more time consuming, right? It requires a higher skill set, so it's a little bit more riskier, because this is a value play and not a yield play. A value play, you have to build value in order to get your return. Yield plays, they're yielding cash flow day one. Okay, so if I have to choose between fix and flip and fix and rent, I prefer fix and rent. However, it is a tad bit more riskier. Okay, and at the end of the day, if you want cash flow, you want it to be passive, this may not be an option for you as of yet. But once you quit your 9 to 5 through your rental income, then you might want to decide, hey, well, full time, I do want to get into fix and flips, because I do like making something ugly into a masterpiece. I want to beautify my local economy. I want to be able to make large sums of money, which is fine. So just do as I did. I will preference for you to wait after you get rental income. So that brings me to my next point. You want to get rental income so you can get passive income, so you can obtain cash flow, because cash flow will enable you to quit your 9 to 5. So the buy and hold strategy versus single families versus the buy and hold multifamily. I prefer multifamily, but you got to get started. We can get started. That's what I want you to keep in mind, my friend. You might say, well, I want to get straight into multifamily. That's the fastest way to find your freedom. That's true. But you might need to crawl before you can run. Some lenders, mortgages, they may preference that you start off small first. So if you only qualify for a single family, then by all means, my friend, get the single family. If you only qualify for FHA owner-occupant, then by all means, go ahead and move forward with that mortgage. See if you can get a duplex. So it could be somewhat of a rental property as well. But just make sure you understand that, hey, whatever you qualify financially speaking, that's pretty much the asset you should move forward with, okay? But I highly preference multifamily. Get into multifamily as fast as possible. If you got to start with single, cool, but get into multi as fast as possible. That's what I did. That's what helped me out. Or you may want to consider wholesaling. Wholesaling is getting a property under contract and assigning your contract for a larger fee to somebody else. So going back to the fix and flip, you might get a property under contract with a motivated seller for $40,000. And then you might assign or sell your contract or flip your contract to a rehabber for $45,000. And the rehabber realizes, okay, I'm buying this for $45,000. It needs $20,000 worth of work, rehab, renovations, $65,000 all in, but it's worth $100,000. Yeah, to do the math, it's a no-brainer. So they don't mind paying you that $5,000 wholesaling fee. Now you can do that as well, but just like with fix and flip, wholesaling is a job. It doesn't build assets. Fix and flip doesn't build assets because you're not owning it long term. You're not buying and holding it. You're buying and selling it. Wholesaling, you're not buying it at all. You're just selling your contract, which is cool, but it does not build wealth. So if you want wealth to leave an inheritance to your children's children, to be blessed to be a blessing, to have passive income so you can work remotely, so that you can continuously receive income without you lifting a finger, then by all means, buy and hold, okay? Financial freedom. It's buying and holding. But this is the kicker. I want you to do this, my friend. Write this down. Use your spare time wisely to make yourself wealthy. Nights and weekends, just like me, right? Me recording this presentation for you. I'm doing this nights and weekends, right? Because I need to make sure that, hey, I'm still a business owner. I still have a company to manage and to drive in regard to 100% finance. Plus, I have real estate portfolio as well that I still have to manage and to drive. So in regard to doing things that relate to presentations, doing events in person, a lot of stuff I have to do nights and weekends. But I'm doing it because I have my future in mind. Forget about today. I want to be that person in which I can leave an inheritance to my children's children, as I mentioned a few moments ago, because I was not a person who actually was in a position to receive inheritance. I have to build wealth. I want to have a prosperous lineage, right? And you should too. So it's important to use your spare time wisely to make yourself wealthy. Use your spare time to learn the ins and outs of real estate investing. And by the way, do not quit your day job yet, right? By having a day job, it helped me qualify for mortgages because mortgage lenders like to see what's called global income. That you have sources of income coming from multiple sources. You got W-2 income. You might have a rental property or two over there. You might have another side business. They like to see that because you're perceived as less of a risk. Okay? Now, phase two. I want you to sweep your own front porch. Many of us have these high dreams of grandeur. We want to have a yacht, a boat. We want to have $1 million portfolio. But do you even, you want cash flow. You want to raise capital. You want to analyze deals, but if you analyze your own personal financial statement, do you know how much income do you have coming in versus your expenses? Do you even know your FICO score? That's what I mean, my friend. You got to sweep your own front porch before you sweep someone else's. So let's do that today. So bring back out that pen and paper, okay? Now, these are the steps I want you to take. So I want you to write these down. I want you to order a credit report. A credit monitoring service will be able to provide you with a credit report. It's a soft inquiry, so you won't get a hard inquiry on your credit report. It's okay. You're not going to get a negative impact by just pulling your credit. Annualcreditreport.com gives one away for free once a year. You want to view your FICO score once you get that credit report. Ideally, you want to have a 680 or higher, 680 FICO score or higher. Hard inquiries, you want to have fewer than 5. Your debt to credit ratio, which is how much debt you have charged, your utilization in relation to the maximum limit. So meaning if you had a $1,000 credit card, Bank of America, and you had $300 charged to that $1,000 credit card, your debt to credit ratio in that scenario is 30%. So you want to keep it at 30% or lower. Debt to income ratio is how much debt you have going out monthly versus your income. You want that to be around 40% or lower. And do you have any negative items? Do you have any collections, bankruptcies, tax liens, foreclosures, evictions, medical bills, late pays, any of those things? If so, it's not the end of the world. But you got to be able to take a look at it to see how you can improve. You got to see where the problems are, where the issues are, so that we can start improving it for you. Now, if you need credit repair, just visit our credit repair webpage. If you want to know my preferred credit monitoring service to order your credit report, just go to 100percentfinance.com and check out the credit repair page there for those resources. Now, the next thing is you also want to entertain, this is part of the income statement, your monthly income and your monthly expenses. Now, I want you to fill this out. So I want you to write this down. What is your monthly income? What are your monthly expenses? And these are some things that can help you come up with those totals. Your housing. What is your rent? What is your HOA fees if you have to pay those? What is your mortgage payment? Housing related expenditures. What are your utilities? Water, electric, gas. What are your oil for some of you guys? Shout out to people in Jersey. This is live there in New Jersey. What is your cable bill or your Netflix subscription or whatever you pay for, Hulu, whatever. Television, Comcast, Xfinity, AT&T, your phone bill, AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, all those expenses, write it down. Monthly totals, by the way. Transportation. Is it MTA? Shout out to my New Yorkers. Or is it MARTA? Shout out to my people in Atlanta who ride public transportation. Or do you have your car? You have a car note? Is it paid in full? If so, how much you spend typically per month on cars, driver's license renewals, getting tags, getting tune-ups, doing maintenance, all that stuff. Your debt. Do you have credit? What's your credit card payments every month? You pay $50 a month on Bank of America, another $75 a month on Citi Card. Do you have student loan debt that you pay? Did you get a loan, installment loan to buy your laptop, and you're paying $100 a month? Do you also have any other debt, independent of your housing debt and your car debt? Any other debt? Student loans, so forth. Next, what's your monthly total for food? How much you spend on food? Whether you buy groceries, you eat out, clothing, entertainment, you go to the movies, you hang out, you travel, all those things enter there. Also miscellaneous things as well, such as you might have a gym membership that you pay every month. You might pay $3 a month for certain online accounts or what have you. Put it all there. And then what's your total? So total all this stuff up, okay? So I want you to write this down. Again, order credit report, check out our 100percentfinance.com credit repair webpage. Write in your monthly income and your monthly expenses. Just give me a few moments to write all this down. All right, let's keep it going. All right, now phase 3, pile and pile up. What are you talking about, Juan? Well, just give me some time. The pile is a formula we created here at 100% Finance, which means your passive income, PI, exceeds your living expenses, LE. So that's what you want. And that equates to financial freedom. So how do you calculate that? You take your total monthly expenses, multiply in your calculator times 1.5. 1.5 is just a buffer. It gives you a margin just in case if you neglected some expenses, because sometimes people forget about haircuts, Valentine's Day gift, or some people even forget Valentine's Day. Oops, it might be the doghouse after that. But, you know, at the end of the day, there's some expenses that don't occur on a regular basis, you know, getting your car tuned up and so forth. So you want to multiply times 1.5 to be conservative. And that's your pile formula. So it lets you know your financial freedom goal, right? And then after that, you get your TUG, which is your total unit goal. How many units you need in your portfolio, buy and hold. So let's say you take your pile or your financial freedom goal, you divide it by $100 per unit. Let's say if you're obtaining $100 per unit in cash flow minimum, and it gives you a guesstimate of how many units you need in your portfolio. So of course you might need less because some markets might have $200 per unit in cash flow. Others may have 100. Some might have 400. So it depends on what debt you're using. You might be using all cash. You might be using mortgages. You might have seller financing. You might be using business credit. You might be using a partner. So all the debt has a huge impact. Okay, but just gives you a guesstimate of how many units you need in your portfolio. Now you come to your YUG. YUG is your yearly unit goal, right? Which is pretty much you take your TUG, your total unit goal, and divide it by 5 years. And you're going to get started this year on closing on your first property. I speak that over you. And now I'm in agreement with you. If 2 or 3 gather as touching anything they ask, we've done to them. So if you agree with me that you're getting a deal closed this year, then by all means, my friend, I'm adding my faith with yours, and you're going to close a deal as well. Now, you know the number of units that you need to eventually say goodbye to 9 to 5, but don't be scared. Don't think it's just a daunting task if you need 100 units. It's doable, step by step. So now you have a goal, you just got to chop it up. What do you mean by that, Juan? Well, you'll see what I mean. Let's do some work. So I'm pulling out my calculator. Okay? Now let's assume your monthly living expenses were $5,000. So everything from tuna to taxes to toilet paper to traveling, everything. $5,000 a month. That's how much it costs for you and your family to eat, to live. Multiply that times 1.5, as we mentioned. It's for the power formula. And our financial freedom goal is $7,500. So that means you need to make $7,500 a month in passive income to finally say goodbye to 9 to 5. Now divide that by $100 in cash flow per door, per unit, in other words. That equates to 75 units. As I mentioned, don't be scared. You can do it. Now it's time to say, okay, well, I'm going to obtain 75 units in 5 years. So I can quit my job in 5 years or less. It just depends on how aggressive you want to do this. So divide 75 by 5 years. That means you need to close on 15 units per year. Now you can chop it up and say, okay, well, every 6 months, and that was my strategy. Every 6 months, I'm gonna close on a deal. So if I divide this by 2, twice a year, I'm gonna close a deal. So that means I need to buy a 7.5 unit every single year. Now, there's no such thing as a 7.5 unit, of course. So what I would say is, okay, every year I need to buy 8 unit and a 7 unit, and so forth. Now, you might be in a situation in which your lender says, well, we can't get you a 7 unit yet. You haven't bought a property. The most we can do is up to a 4 unit. Then by all means, get the 4 unit. Just get started, because there's a gradual increase. It's like an exponential curve when you're getting started on real estate investing. My first year, I bought a duplex and a single family. Second year, 0 units. Third year, I bought a 4 unit. And then my fourth year, that's when I started to skyrocket. But that's how it is. It's a gradual progression of a real estate investor. So I'm just sharing that with you as well. You just got to get started how you can get started. Don't be picky. Don't be bougie. Well, no, I got a lot of money. My first deal has to be at least a 20 unit. Well, if your lender says no to that, my friend, then you just have to do what you have to do just in the beginning, right? But at the end of the day, you're making progress. So just get your first deal closed this year. Don't be scared. Now, add the YUG, yearly unit goal, to your creed, and make sure you update that frequently, as well as your personal financial statement. Now, resources, that's the phase 4. Join a local real estate investing association. You can Google a local real estate investing association. So if you're in Atlanta, you can type in Atlanta REIA or Georgia REIA, what have you. You might see associations pop up. Or you can go to meetup.com to find others. Next thing I want you to do is find a mentor, someone local. If not local, someone online, like us, like me, Juan Pablo, or the people's mentor. So find a mentor to help guide you along the way. And form accountability partnerships with people who are at your level. You know, if you have a duplex, form a partnership with someone who has a duplex, single family, or what have you. So you can hold each other accountable to make sure you're taking action on this stuff. And third, find the mentee, so someone that you can mentor, so that you're giving back to society. Because you have to be charitable. You know, one thing, it's not all about you. I heard that from someone that they said, hey, it's hard for me to find a mentor because they don't want to spend their time mentoring me for free, and I don't think that's cool, because how else am I going to become wealthy? And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I said, but you have to give in order to receive. Give, and it'll be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will men give into your bosom. So the more people you mentor, the more people will mentor you. And you got to make sure it's mutually beneficial to the mentor. Why should the mentor spend all their time, all their focus on giving you the keys of success for free, but you're not providing any value? All right? I'm just giving you insight because I'm a mentor who gets those questions all the time. But please believe, I mentor a lot of people. So consume all real estate, all business, all personal development media. So whether it's YouTube videos, podcasts, books, seminars, resources online, consume it all. You want to be a nerd in this stuff. You want to know it like the back of your hand. And get access to real estate investment tools, whether it's deal analyzers, whether it's personal financial statements, all that good stuff. Now, best practices, stay optimistic. I've never met an entrepreneur who wasn't overly optimistic, because you need to be optimistic to the point where your optimism spills over on your team. Because there'll be times when business is low, and they get scared, and your team may want to jump ship. But you got to be optimistic. You cannot allow temporary circumstances to affect you emotionally. In fact, your emotions should affect your current temporary circumstances. Period. You're a person of power. Embody that. You're an entrepreneur. And if there's a will, there's a way. Just because you get a denial letter from a mortgage company, or you lose a deal to another investor, or a partner drops out, that happens in business, baby. You got to take the losses on the chin. However, if you have a strong will, you will find another way. And by the way, don't be that dog chasing many foxes. That's an old African proverb, which basically means, you know what? I see stocks. Let me try that. I see things. I see bonds. Let me try that. I see forex trading. Let me try that. Flip. and fix. Woo, let me try that. Oh man, buy and hold. Let me try that. Oh man, online business. Let me try it. No. Select one fox and chase it to the point you catch it. So if you want to do buy and hold because you want passive income, just focus on buy and hold strategy and don't entertain any other investment strategies. No other investment platform, no other investment vehicles. Just focus on the one. You're like, whoa, you're getting real excited. Yes, because I'm excited. I shared that with you in the beginning. I'm passionate about this stuff. And the mindset, don't worry about the how. The why is all that matters. Entertainment is a luxury. So you can cut off some of your expenses. Don't spend your time engaging in entertainment. It's a luxury you cannot afford if you haven't reached the pinnacles you aim to reach where financial freedom is concerned. And this is your part-time job. So it's a wake-up call. Your real estate investment career is your part-time job, except you're clocking in and clocking out nights and weekends to further your future. Please don't sleep. Don't sleep, right? Get 6 hours of sleep, 7, 8 max. Don't sleep it on the weekends. That's your time to really put in some work. Stay focused. You can do this. I believe in you. And you need access to the 4 critical resources.